Greetings from Pavlo Ardanov, Fulbright Research Scholar at the Agriculture Sustainability Institute, University of California, Davis, and co-founder of the NGO Permaculture in Ukraine. Welcome to the series of video lectures on designing crop polycultures, which is supported by the International Visegrad Fund. The topic of this lecture is crop rotation. Under description to this video, you will find the links to different sections of this video lecture, as well as to the slides where you can study spreadsheets to design your own rotation scheme. Crop rotation is the practice of growing different crops in systematic and recurring sequence on the same land. Depending on integration with livestock, rotation may be stocked, stockless, or semi-stockless. Later means importing manure from nearby farm. Rotation cycles often consist of explorative phase, for example, cultivation of arable cash crops, and build-up phase, for example, perennial pasture or growing cover crops. Main functions of crop rotation include disrupting life cycles of pests and weeds. Intermediate crops selected for this purpose are often called break crop, replenishing nutrient reserves, improving nutrient use efficiency and prevention of the nutrient leaching, preservation of soil structure, stabilization of farm income by reducing dependence on failure of individual crops, or insurance against the market price fluctuations. On this slide, you can see how rotation principles can be translated to ecosystem functions and services. General principle of crop rotation lie in rotating crops from different families with contrasting above and below ground botanical features. This increases habitat heterogeneity and hence the diversity of associated micro and macroorganisms, while the population of pests is reduced due to competition, predation, or life cycle disruption because of absence of compatible host or due to mechanical disturbance. Therefore, 2-3 years break before resowing the same or related crop is often required to reduce disease inoculum to secure level. One of the most integrated and historically prevailing rotation schemes include integration of crops and livestock. Alternating between annual crops which favor more annual weeds and perennial forages that favor more perennial weeds can break the conditions for development of specific weed spectra. Livestock can transform agricultural waste into economic produce, improve nutrient mineralization, and provide weed and pest control. Forage crops are efficient for soil formation, and perennial grasses are particularly efficient in erosion control, improving water cycling, prevention of anaerobic conditions in waterlogged soils, for provisioning habitat for beneficial organisms, for nutrient capture in soil, increasing soil organic matter content, and carbon sequestration. Forages can be either planted across the field or in strips to provide environmental benefits. For example, alfalfa roots can penetrate to the soil depths up to 150 centimeters and capture nitrates before they leach below the root zones. Perennial forages capture nitrates throughout the year, unlike annual crops. Rotation with more than 3 years of pasture and up to 7 years of arable cropping is capable to prevent soil degradation. Soil carbon will increase if pasture phase will constitute half of rotation cycle, in particular in no-till farming system. The sequence of crops in rotation influences soil aggregation, as well as development and distribution of soil biopores. Micropores and microaggregates provide better protection for soil microorganisms against predatory organisms. Soil aggregation enables coexistence of anaerobic and aerobic zones. This is important for maintaining diversity of soil metabolic processes. For example, the reductive process of denitrification and oxidative process of nitrification are able to go simultaneously because of the heterogeneity introduced by soil structure. Improved continuity of soil pores result in increased gaseous exchange between the soil and the atmosphere. The influence of rotation on soil structure results from the combined effect of crop species and soil management at different points in rotation. Plant traits such as the type of root system, shoot-to-root ratio, as well as the rate of biomass production are important parameters influencing nutrient cycling. Shoot residues usually decompose faster than root residues and provide fast source of nutrients for the subsequent crops. However, root exudates and root turnover, which represent approximately half of carbon fixed by plant, is more homogeneously distributed across the soil volume and is essential for supporting population of soil microorganisms. In addition, fungal hyphae play an important role in soil structuring. Thus, crops with mycorrhizal status should be an integral component of rotation schemes, and mycorrhiza formation can promote root elongation in compacted soils. It should be noted that non-host crops for mycorrhiza fungi, such as oilseed rape, can delay mycorrhizal infection for the subsequent crop, for example for maize. Dicotyledonous species usually have deeper rooting system. In particular, roots of lupin and safflower better penetrate into compacted soil. Alfalfa increases the number of large pores and can be used for biological drilling. Ideally, deep-rooted crops should follow shallow-rooted ones to preserve subsoil structure. Of the major arable crops, winter-sown cereals and winter oilseed rape can have the greatest total root length, biomass production, and the greatest potential rooting depths, and thus have the capacity to deposit organic matter deeper into the subsoil. Crop diversification has the potential to lower economically optimum rates for nitrogen fertilizers due to greater nitrogen and water use efficiency. Meta-analysis demonstrated that adding one or more cash crops to rotation could increase soil organic carbon by 3.6% and total soil nitrogen by 5.3%. And these positive effects can be doubled if a cover crop is included into rotation. More diverse crop rotations with more heterogeneous residues provide a higher active or labile soil carbon pool, which in turn drives the microbial processes that support greater nitrogen retention and mineralization. Thus, diverse crop rotations support higher microbial metabolic activity and hence greater microbial nitrogen cycling capacity, in particular under water-limited conditions. The impact of crop rotation on soil carbon sequestration is defined by a combination of species selection and soil management. Cover crops improve microbial carbon use efficiency and increase microbially derived stable soil organic carbon content, and thus cover crops are the major drivers of carbon sequestration in rotation schemes. Highest retention of soil organic carbon was obtained in a grass pasture system. Crop rotation is one of the most powerful cultural techniques for reducing weed seed and seedling density, and on average it can decrease herbicide use by 50% in conventional farming. 3- and 4-year rotations reduce herbicide use by 88% comparing to the 2-year rotation. Ecological management can reduce weed population by enhancing natural loss of weed seed in soil, reducing weed seedling establishment, and minimizing seed production in established plants. Crop sequences, which include crops with different planting and maturation dates, competition and allelopathy characteristics, and diverse management practices such as tillage, mowing, and grazing, result in an unstable environment that prevents proliferation of weeds. It was demonstrated that diversification that increased the variance around crop planting dates was more effective in suppressing weeds than increasing crop species richness alone. Rotating cool and warm season crops reduce weed community density by preventing either weed establishment or seed production due to different planting and harvesting dates among the crops from these two groups. It is recommended to arrange such rotation in a cycle of 4, with 2 cool season crops followed by 2 warm season crops, as 2-year rotation cycle can actually increase weed density. In each 2-year sequence of cool and warm season crops, it is recommended to select crops with different planting dates within cool and warm season crops, which provide an additional opportunity to mechanically control from 35 to 50% of potential weed seedlings that emerge before crop planting dates. In no-till system, if weed seed production is reduced by rotation, weed population will decrease with time, starting from the second year, due to faster loss of seed viability and seed predation on the soil surface, comparing with seed buried in soil which are better protected. Crop residues physically impede growth of weed seedlings or inhibit their germination due to allelopathy. Crops also reduce weed growth by competing for lights and nutrients. To enhance suppression of weed emergence by crop residues, growers can plant crops, for example winter wheat, at higher seeding rates or in narrower rows, reduce the rates of nitrogen and phosphorus fertilization, and grow taller cultivars. Integration of different tactics will produce synergistic effect and help to achieve a substantial suppression of both weed emergence and growth. And here again, tillage minimizes the benefit from crop residues. Some additional strategies for weed suppression include planting low-growing vining crops such as watermelon and sowing architecturally complex mixtures with high canopy density, such as grass broadleaf biculture, for example, mixing a brassica species with cereal rye or other winter cereals that might provide superior shading for weed suppression. Cover crops specifically planted for weed suppression are called smother crops. Vine crops such as squash, zucchini, watermelon, cucumber, and melon in their turn also tend to become weedy, because cultivation and hand weeding are impossible after the stems have run out of the row. They should be followed by short season crops such as spinach and lettuce that are harvested before weeds can set seeds to reduce weed population in subsequent vine crop. In this table, you can check crops for suppression of specific weed species. For example, winter rape is an effective means of biological control against couch grass. Pest control mechanism by rotation is similar to weed control mechanism in terms that it breaks life cycle and alters habitat of many harmful organisms by creating a lag period when no host is available for insect and pathogen. Certain crops, like mustard family, release chemicals on decomposition, which are toxic for certain fungi, weeds, and nematodes. Incorporation of broccoli residues have been very effective to reduce the population of Sclerotonia sclerotium on lettuce, as well as to control fungal pathogens on strawberry. Likewise, rotating soybean with corn and wheat may reduce cyst nematode population up to 50%. Growing brassica near to wheat field is a very popular strategy for the control of aphid on wheat. The brassica field attracts the ladybird beetle, which is predator of aphid, and provide effective control of aphid in wheat. In this section of my lecture, I will review some tools which you can use for modeling crop rotation. Rotor, which means rotation in organic farming system, is designed to model crop rotation in nitrogen-limited legume-based organic farming system. It accounts for supplying sufficient fodder, regulating weed infestation, taking phytosanitary restriction into account, maximizing nitrogen fixation from legumes, and minimizing nitrogen losses via leaching. The output includes description of proposed crop sequence and recommended production activities for each crop in rotation, yield, nitrogen fixation, leaching, nitrogen removal and nitrogen balance, humus reproduction, weed infestation risk for different groups of weeds depending on your soil and farming. You can assess contribution of each crop in rotation, as well as the performance of rotation cycle in general. And by modeling the inputs, for example, increasing proportion of legumes in mixture to increase nitrogen fixation for the following crops, or adding the catch crop to reduce nitrate leaching, you can optimize desired rotation scheme. So one of the primary benefits of rotor is the ability to generate and assess complex crop rotations, specifically with overlapping undersown main and cover crops, as it is required for successful organic farming without an external nitrogen supply. This tool can be used to calculate average annual income from crop rotation based on provided local data on crop prices, management cost, and number of years in crop rotation. In video description below, you will find the links to slides as well as references and highlights to publications cited in this video lecture. Finally, I invite growers of tree nuts and fruit crops, all growers with experience in crop diversification, researchers and agriculture extension specialists to participate in one of the surveys listed on this slide. The links are also provided in the description to this video. With your help, we will be able to develop free software to help farmers to design crop polycultures. We also invite you to subscribe to our Facebook page Polycultures and Permaculture, where we share useful information on crop polycultures from the academic publication and directly from growers. And we invite you to share your practical experience on this page. On our website, you will find recorded conference presentations, proceedings and resolution of the Research and Practice Conference Polycultures and Permaculture, which was organized in January-February 2020. Thank you very much for your attention.